St. Thomas Aquinas set out 3 conditions for a just war. First, the authority of the ruler within whose competence it lies to declare war. Second, there is required a just cause, that is, that those who are attacked for some offence merit such treatment. Third, there is required a right intention on the part of the belligerents, either achieving some good object or of avoiding some evil. Israel clearly meets the requirements for a just war in what it is doing in Gaza. It is a legitimate authority, its cause is unquestionably just, and there is a right intention. Yet, Israel is losing the propaganda battle, and support is declining. How can this be? Israel is rightly not held to the lower standards of others, of the dictators such as Bashar al-Assad of Syria, who is estimated to have murdered over 600,000 of his own people, nor the Iranians, who with their allies in Yemen have been responsible for 377,000 being killed, nor even the Chinese Communist Party, which holds, according to Human Rights Watch, nearly 1.5 million Uyghur Muslims in detention. The atrocities of the dictators are not the standard by which the people of Israel or of the West expect to be held. The outrageous treatment of people in Syria, Yemen or communist China is different. Western democracies are expected to do better and are rightly held to a higher standard. This is not unreasonable. Nonetheless, Israel needs to win, and we should never forget that in the West. Hamas is supported by Iran. It is part of a global threat to the West. The world is getting increasingly dangerous, and it is visible elsewhere. We see this with what Iran is doing through its Houthi proxies in the Red Sea. We see it through the actions of Russia in Ukraine and the tension that comes from China, not just over Taiwan, but in a border dispute with India that has been in the news even in the last few days. And this affects us. Just recently, we've seen a man attacked on the streets of London, apparently by proxies of the Iranian government. We know that the Russians are willing to kill people outside their own territory. These threats are not that remote. And to defend ourselves, we need to support our allies. In some ways, our own proxies are operating in Ukraine, in Gaza, and in Taiwan. But Israel is not at the moment making this easy for us, as yesterday's deaths show. The strikes this week that killed 3 British citizens are very difficult to explain. Analysis from the Telegraph has shown that the IDF uses 2 types of drone strike. One with a blast radius of 5 to 10 yards, and another that is extremely precise, down to a few feet. The drone operator told the Telegraph they could theoretically take out the driver of a vehicle, leaving the person in the back seat alive. The operator also said that strikes are only ever executed upon approval from a lawyer and a senior officer. So we need to understand what went wrong. Israeli media have suggested that the strikes that killed the British citizens were of this highly precise type. We need to take this into account, along with the fact that the aid convoy had alerted the IDF of its passage prior to the strike, and it was duly approved. There was negligence in what happened, and we need to know who was responsible. When will there be a court-martial? The point is that Israel is an ally in the broader global war against Iran as well as Russia and China. A Cold War, mostly, but with some hotspots. These actions not only work against the Western cause by granting our enemies moral ammunition, but they work against Israel's interest too. Israel takes pride not only in being a Western liberal democracy, but in having a defence force of the highest moral and strategic standards. Israel, having been attacked and having a just basis for its response, is losing the propaganda war. It needs to win it, and it needs to act in a way that allows its friends to support it with conviction. It needs to answer some key questions. For example, how many people does it think have died as a consequence of its military activity? And how many of those were Hamas fighters? If Israel continues to lose in the court of public opinion, it will lose in the theatre of war. And that would be potentially catastrophic for the Western world, facing threats that we have not faced for many decades. Our friends need to win our support, and they will not do this if the lives of our fellow citizens are lost.